This week's Torah portion is Parshat Vayechi. There are two extremely important lessons that we learn with regards to child rearing and understanding our children in this week's Torah portion. Firstly, Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our forefather, dies, presumably, in this week's Torah portion. But the Torah says, Vayigva v'ye'asef el emav. He is collected into being part of the nation. And that is the description of his presumed death. Because it doesn't say explicitly that he died, Chazal, the rabbis explain in the Talmud, in Ta'anit, that Yaakov Avinu lo met. Jacob, our forefather, never died. What does that mean? That's an impossibility. Everyone dies at some point. And therefore the Gemara proclaims, Ma zar'o b'chayim af hu b'chayim. Doesn't mean that Jacob never died. Of course, he died physically, but he remained alive spiritually. His presence consistently remained with us, will remain with us. His effect continues to resonate amongst us. And the Gemara proclaims his children are alive, and therefore he is alive. What does this mean? We remain alive vis-a-vis our children, by what we teach them, by the ethics, the morals, the codes that we imbue inside of them. They continue to walk this earth, future generations, and therefore they continue to resonate and to bring our spirit, our teachings alive. They keep us alive spiritually and idealistically without us being there necessarily physically. And therefore, we continue to live through our future generations, through our children. I have an example of where this appears. I had a story that happened to me this past week. 2 months ago, a student of mine, I used to teach at the Yeshiva Bnei Akiva Chadera 27 years ago. Student of mine, a Russian student who had no affiliation, no connection, and really no interest in religious affiliation or observance. During the time when I was a rabbi there 27 years ago, I bought for these students pairs of tefillin. And I said, one day, you never know, maybe you'll use them. They weren't interested at the time, but who knows? 27 years later, I get a call 2 months ago from one of these students, and he tells me, I know I haven't been in touch with you. I know that I haven't spoken to you in a long time, but I want you to know that my son's going to be bar mitzvahed next month, and the only rabbi that I want to fulfill this bar mitzvah, to be there for him on this day, is you. I said, I'm honored. Of course I'll come. I said, why don't you come to my house and we'll meet together with your son and we'll talk a little bit and touch base. And he said, of course I will. But when I come, I have an amazing story to tell you. He came to my house with his son and he said, Rabbi, I want you to know, last year, there was a fire in my apartment in Netanya where I live, and the entire apartment was consumed by flames. It was also doused with water when the fire department came to try to preserve what was left in the apartment. Everything in my apartment was ruined. But on the far side of my shelf in my bedroom, there was something sitting there called tefillin. I hardly ever wore them, and I didn't really use them during the course of these years, but they remained unscathed, untouched by the fire, by the flames, or by the water. And here they are. I want you, Rabbi, to make sure that they're okay, because I want my son to wear these tefillin for his bar mitzvah. 27 years later, his son this week wore those tefillin on his bar mitzvah. I had the tefillin checked by a sofer, and the sofer told me that they were completely in perfect condition, and not destroyed at all by any sense of flames or by the water that doused his apartment. And so this week I had the privilege of standing there at the bima next to my student 27 years on, together with his son, and witness the bar mitzvah of his child. And witness his child now wearing and donning the tefillin that he didn't wear for so many years. That, my friends, is what it means, bizarecha lichyot. In your children, in future generations, you live. And so we have to understand that our investment is not necessarily regarding ourselves, but our investment for the future is regarding our children. The way that we continue to live is through them, what we teach them, what we guide them, what we direct them with, the ideals that we infuse inside of them. Those will indeed ensure that we remain alive. And the second lesson that we learn is with regards to child rearing. Because the beginning of Bereshit, we have the proclamation, Hashomer Achi Anochi. Cain, who slew his brother Abel, says, I am not my brother's keeper. Really? This is not the Jewish way. The end of the Torah of Bereshit, of Genesis, ends by all of the brothers coming together in unison and proclaiming that indeed they feel unified, they feel responsible for one another, and ensure at the end of the day not only to bury their father Yaakov together, but also their brother Yosef. This is ensured by their father Yaakov, Jacob, who at the beginning favors the son Joseph, but in this week's Torah portion takes all of the brothers together around his bed and gives each and every one a separate bracha, a separate blessing, proclaiming that every single individual has their own individual attributes and characteristics to bring to the table. Not everyone's the same, not everyone has the same talents or the same flailings, but everyone has something to offer to the Jewish people. That is what we have to remember. Every person is precious. Every person has something to contribute and to enhance the Jewish people. This is clearly what is the way of this week's parsha. It is the Torah way, it is the Jewish way, and of course it remains the Gila way. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you once again for joining us. Please remember to consider subscribing to the page below and send me your comments. I will get back to you. Have a great day.